Yesterday, hundreds of millions of people experienced the blue screen of death. And it was definitely not a welcome sight as airports, banks, television networks, and even voting machines came crashing down. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to give you kind of the aftermath of what happened yesterday as airplanes across the world were grounded. And kind of brings back memories of Y2K, right? This is what they promised Y2K was going to be like. And it was just as bad as they promised, but it seems like things are coming back online. So that's good news there. But let's jump into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade. And we're kind of keeping track of what's going on out there in the world, but it's hard keeping up. It's just a crazy, crazy world out there, isn't it? Well, we had the London Stock Exchange Sky News, that's based out of Australia, I believe, and 911 servers across the United States. We had Australia impacted, the U.S., Germany, UK, airports in all those countries had major issues across the United States. Delta grounded all of its aircraft, United. So what was all this? What actually happened? Was this a major hack? Did the North Koreans finally get their computers working to attack us? No. CrowdStrike, a major, they make software to secure servers. So basically all the companies out there that had servers that they were using CrowdStrike to protect themselves. This included Amazon web servers. This included Microsoft 360, Azure, all these servers and networks and all the companies that they hosted on there suddenly got the blue screen of deaths. Now, as they were pushing out this update, they started pushing out this update late Thursday, and as it dropped in different time zones, systems went completely offline. This was not a hacking attack. This was somebody screwed up really royally. Y2K level error, right? Now, they identified relatively early Friday morning what the problem was, and they started implementing a patch. And by later into the day, we saw most of those systems coming back online. And by now, basically all systems are back online, except for things that may have been damaged by the update itself. So this just kind of goes to show once again how fragile and interdependent our computer-based systems are. And we keep saying this, that we're building more and more towards a global internet that's all reliant upon. In this case, it was one company brought down some of the biggest servers across the world. Data centers around the world crashed because they all use this same product. And they got the Windows blue screen of death of, there was a problem loading up your Windows, right? And everything shut down. Now, one of the most interesting things was in Maricopa County. Yes, that county in Arizona. You're like already shuddering. You're going to talk about the machines. Yeah, we're going to talk about the machines. So word came out of Maricopa County that the machines that we've been told so many times do not connect to the internet somehow got something that was on the internet to crash. A new update on the internet somehow crashed these servers, and they stopped functioning. How did that happen? I thought they weren't connected to the internet. And we just see the lies keep coming, don't we? This is just one more thing out there, and now it seems like we've dodged the bullet that CrowdStrike is rolling out these things, but just the scale. The sheer scale of this. The London Stock Exchange came to a halt. The UK debt management, which is basically like their treasury department, they lost the sales that they were trying to push through Didn't go through. We're talking about hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars worth of bonds being sold and bought. And yeah, that all got derailed. McDonald's, yes, McDonald's had major IT problems. People were getting boarding passes written out in ink. It's crazy. So what happens when we have one of these systems go down? And just the fact that so much of this seemed to be focused in on Microsoft makes you wonder too, doesn't it? With Bill Gates out there still under threat that that the island guest lists are going to come out, right? The guy who didn't off himself, right, in prison, his lists, his client lists, his guest list, still haven't seen those somehow. Not sure why we haven't seen those yet, you know. But everybody related to that have either disappeared, been imprisoned and silenced, or they have passed away under suspicious circumstances. And remember, how much of the world is dependent upon Microsoft. Some people out there even suggesting that this was a shot across the bow by Bill Gates to get people to back off, to remind them how dependent the world is on Microsoft. And if another issue were to happen, you know, how do you like that world without the internet? So now, notably, some places were not impacted. It's interesting that most of the airlines were impacted, but not Southwest, right? And most of the car industry was, but not Tesla. Some of the servers for Facebook, some of the stuff with other social media platforms had big problems, but not Twitter. It just seems like the lone kind of mavericks of different industries seem to be the ones that didn't get hit, and it seemed to be the legacy companies, the legacy media got hit, legacy McDonald's, the biggest fast food chain out there, and everything just ground to a halt. Now, it was inconvenient, and it may have been downright scary for some people in the midst of it. But in the global scale of things, given how fast the patch came out and how fast they were able to get people's systems back online, is this going to be something that people are going to remember for years? It'll probably come up at the end of year review, right? The blue screen of death day. But other than that, it was probably one big hiccup. But I want us to take this as a warning. How reliant we have grown upon computers and smartphones and tablets and servers. We interact with computers that are on another continent daily. That's how much of our data is being moved all around the world. We just saw that it came out that, who is it? It was the U.S. Postal Service was giving social media companies like Facebook, Meta, and others people's addresses because they were these companies were requesting people's addresses in bulk, and the U.S. Postal Service was just giving out people's addresses to these companies. Just your private information isn't private anymore. They don't even pretend like it's private. It is out there for the world to see. This is by far the biggest IT failure ever. It was a Y2K here just a few years late, 24 years later, in 2024. Why 2024? But as we're going to this election season, one has to wonder, as we've just seen, these systems, these machines that are not connected to the internet, displaying a propensity to be impacted by the internet. I'm just going to leave that one there for you. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments down below. I can't go quite much further than that, than to raise that issue and kind of point you in that direction to examine those things. But I want you to contemplate, how would your life be if all the computers, Apple, Microsoft, even if you're running Linux out there, if all those computers came crashing down, you weren't able to connect to servers, 911 wouldn't pick up the phone. What if all that happens? How would you get by? I mean, we need to stop and examine our lives every so often on how dependent we are upon systems, and then to think about what would we do without those systems. Now, if you're like anything like me, you're like, oh, I would finally have peace and quiet, right? It finally calm down. Be able to just focus in on living and working with my own two hands and digging in the dirt and, being left alone. Like, I don't want to know what the people in San Francisco are doing. I don't want the stupid things that they're doing. I don't want them to impact me on a day-to-day basis, right? And I don't think you do either. We don't care, unless you live in New York, we don't care what happens in New York City, right? We just stay over there, right? You liberal wackos who are just crazy. If you want to run your own country into the ground, if you want to run your own city in the ground, we don't really care. As long as the people there have the free option of leaving if they want to, then fine. You guys just have your areas. And that's one of the things that's just notable about the conservative versus liberal persuasion of things, is that if a conservative doesn't like something, they just don't participate, right? If a liberal doesn't like something, they have to make sure that nobody anywhere on the face of the earth participates. And if they like something, they're going to force everybody on the planet to pretend to like it too. And that's the really disturbing thing about it all. The hard leftists are just trying to force their beliefs, their values down everybody's throats, and we're all just sick of it. We don't want it in the advertising. We don't want any of that. I was just watching, there's this show out there on Amazon called The 1% Club, which I love the format. But they're always picking out the weirdest wackos in the group and then promoting them as if they're normal. And it's just like just stuff that just kind of makes your stomach just sick, or at least makes my stomach sick. It'd be great to kind of be done with that, but we are heavily reliant upon so many things. If you look in your cupboard, if you open up the tags in your shirt and check where everything comes from, you realize how global everything is. Of course, I'm talking to a camera that wasn't made in the United States, right? And I'm surrounded by things that weren't made in the United States. Are we aware of those things? Do we realize how dependent we are? And do we have plans for what to do 1 second after, so to speak, right? Now, whether it's a massive cyber attack, whether it's the powers that be in our own country that decide to take down systems before November, I don't know. But we can't grow so reliant upon technology without it costing us something. The longer we go without a major system failure, the less and less security precautions get taken. And it's just how systems work. They start taking more and more risks until they almost implode upon their own failure to prepare. I mean, we see this with the global supply chain, right? We've gone from so little inventory down that everything, stuff's getting manufactured in the factory and it's hitting your store shelves days or weeks after manufacture. Stuff that you wouldn't think. Like canned goods can actually get from the factory to your store shelf in a week. And that's not unusual these days. I know. You probably don't think of it like that. You're like, well, it gets manufactured, then it moves to a warehouse, and it sits in the warehouse for a while, and then eventually they kind of move it out of the warehouse and move it down to the stores and everything like that. That's not how it works anymore. We don't really have all that many warehouses anymore. They're not called warehouses anymore. They're called distribution centers. Trucks come in one side, they unload it, and just distribute it into trucks going out the other side. They don't have the stuff sit there. The stuff comes in, it may sit there until the new trucks come in and then they push it back out. But a lot of these distribution centers, stuff's just flowing through it. It's not being stored there. And so a lot of times, if there's a warehouse anywhere, it's actually at the factory. The factory makes the products and it sits there in their factory before they ship it. But once they ship it, it starts working its way right straight to the store. And a lot of times you have places like Walmart and stuff like that where they're tracking all the sales in real time in their computer system, and then they're sending those orders right to the factory. Okay, today we need X number of units of your product. And the next day we need X number of units of your product because that's how many got sold. The buffer in the system doesn't really exist anymore. That's why they talk about, like if everyone goes to the store and starts buying stuff, it just gets wiped out because they weren't prepared for that. They don't have a warehouse to pull more stuff. They have to go to the factory and get more of their stuff from there. Hopefully the factory has a bunch of that sitting around in a warehouse, but maybe they don't. If they have any issues, or if the factory itself is just running on a just-in-time system as well. What happens when the next cyber attack happens, the next update gets pushed out without proper review? It's only a matter of days, it's only a matter of months before we get a real system problem that they can't figure out in a few hours. All right, folks, let me know what you guys think down below. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great Saturday. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report, out.